Stand by, stand by. Welcome back, folks. It's 6 minutes past 7 o'clock. And last week, the Agriculture Minister, Mr. Clarence Rambarat, announced that the EMA would take steps to protect the Scarlet Ibis in the face of a poaching crisis. People making stew with the national bird, man. The EMA is looking at increasing the fine for poachers to $100,000, 100 times the existing fine, with the possibility of 2 years imprisonment. The change will come if the EMA declares that the national bird an environmentally sensitive species under the environmentally sensitive species rules. The Caroni Bird Sanctuary will also be declared an environmentally sensitive area, and this decision requires a mandatory 30-day period for public consultation. Here to discuss and explain the process, we have the Managing Director of the EMA, Mr. Hayden Romano, and Vidjaya Ramkhalawan, the Assistant Manager for Technical Services. Folks, welcome to Morning Edition.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Let me start with Ms. Ramkhalawan. In terms of the process, though, for the execution of this particular initiative, how long will this process typically take?
It may take up to a year.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, and that's a conservative time frame.
Conservative time frame.
What takes the time, of course, because it's a science-based decision, we have to ensure that all of the technical information to inform the development of the notice is verified and collated.
Now, what kind of technical information are you going to require?
We would need to look at population density, habitat, movement,
right.
Migration, feeding patterns.
Right.
So all information that would assist us in better developing a notice that would protect or further protect the species.
Who's going to assist you in the acquisition of this data?
Many stakeholders. In fact, we've already begun reaching out to the stakeholders, academia, the conservation groups, tour guiding associations, wherever we know that the information
I noticed
lies.
you didn't mention the Ministry of Agriculture.
Yes, the ministries as well.
Oh, I just wondering.
Yes.
I was wondering if they would have this data available.
Yes, they would. Of course, the universities and so.
Yeah.
And we're not restricting it to one particular stakeholder group. In fact, and I would take this opportunity, Hayden, to ask the public if you do have any information with regards to these species and you'd like to share it with the EMA, even if it's an anecdotal story or so, please share it with the EMA.
And that's an important point. In terms of, Mr. Romano, in terms of really, first of all, the minister is describing this as a crisis. So the next question that has to be asked is, well, if you can actually achieve this particular initiative of declaring the national bird an environmentally sensitive species, then the issue will always be the level of enforcement. Are you preparing for that kind of enforcement necessary?
We don't have a choice. I mean, once we declare the Scarlet Ibis an environmentally sensitive species, we will have to put in place the enforcement mechanism. I think there are a couple of things, I mean, that are important with respect to the process. One is the need for the public to participate. We have a lot of people out there who have information, as Vidjaya said, anecdotal information. Tell us what they know about the species. Are they seeing more Scarlet Ibis? Are they seeing less Scarlet Ibis?
Yes.
We have all the groups that we've contacted, all the various conservation groups, I mean, the university and the other, I mean, more scientific data. What we need to do is to work with agencies like the Ministry of Agriculture, like the Coast Guard, the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. We do have our own environmental police unit. And together, I mean, we can do more with respect to protecting the Scarlet Ibis.
Of course, the major concern will be, as you really work towards enforcing these new regulations that you anticipate, the major concern will be, are you stretching yourselves too thinly with the resources that you currently are in possession of?
It will be a challenge, but we are heartened that both the Minister of Agriculture, Senator Rambarat, and our line minister, Mrs. Camille Robinson-Regis,
yes,
they're both very much interested in this initiative.
Yes.
And maybe it's because it's our national bird. and therefore we expect that we will be getting the financial support to move forward with the initiative. So
here's an interesting point, though. Can the EMA, of its own accord, recognizing that there are particular species or particular issues affecting our natural environment, can the EMA initiate on its own proactively these kinds of adjustments to the environmental regulations?
Of course we can. I mean, by through the EM Act and the environmentally sensitive species rules and the environmentally sensitive areas rules, we can do it proactively. In 2002, we actually did a survey of the population, and we brought in all the various groups and to determine which are the species we need to be looking at with respect to declaring environmentally sensitive. And by the way, the Scarlet Ibis was on that list. I mean, it was not right up on the list, I mean,
yes.
But it was on the list. And the Caroni Swamp was also on the list. So, I mean, since 2002, I mean, it has been in the back of the EMA that we need to be looking at these the species and the area.
But it takes a while. I mean that's a long time. You're talking 15 years.
We're talking 15 years, but during the 15 years, there are more important, I mean, more endangered, more threatened species. I mean, we had the manatee, the Paui. The Paui, I mean, really was very, very critical for us. The turtles that we did in 2014, the 5 species of sea turtles that we did in 2014, the hummingbird in Tobago, and the what was it like? Oh, the ocelot.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And the golden tree frog.
Yeah,
Yes.
And the golden tree frog. So we've done it before. And there, I think even if you look at the turtles, I mean, there have been a certain level of concern and by citizens once they're declared. So maybe the fines work, the $100,000 fine work. It is, I mean, it saddened all of us because we thought that the national bird was something special to all of us, and that it had a special place.
And on the basis of patriotism, that we would want to not eat the national bird.
Exactly. So
clearly, that assumption is something that has to be supported by actual legislation and disincentives to eat the national bird.
Yeah.
And this is a great initiative. But here's the other side of the coin, though, Ms. Ramkhalawan. When you declare certain areas environmentally sensitive and certain species that occupy those areas as environmentally sensitive species, does it not also interfere with industry, further development of the area, which usually means roads and bridges
Correct.
and land for housing and quarrying and so on? What considerations are given to the exclusion of these areas from that kind of physical development?
Well, the Act is actually pretty specific, and when it comes to sensitive areas, it actually talks about wise use. And when the designation occurs, there is a management committee with a management plan that is put into place to determine what types of development, what type of activities can occur within, around, neighboring the area, to ensure that there's wise use.
Now,
And there also be prohibitions.
here's another very important question. Your relationship with
Correct.
other regulatory bodies
Yes.
that assist in the enforcement of these rules and regulations, for instance, the regional corporations, the town and country planning division of the Ministry of Planning.
Correct.
What's that relationship like in ensuring compliance with these issues?
You know that part of the mandate of the EMA is collaboration. And as I mentioned, the management committee, that management committee is actually made up of those stakeholders who you've just mentioned there. So it requires a collaborative approach towards the enforcement as well. Because as you would appreciate, the EMA cannot be there 24/7. So we do rely on our partnerships with these entities as well to provide us with assistance. And of course, we would, through our environmental protection, environmental police unit, utilize that resource as well. in terms of the management and the monitoring.
Now, and that's good news, Mr. Romano. In terms of the fact that the disincentives for the poaching of the national bird has this particular disincentive has increased. When you look at the other fines as part of the protection of the other designated species, do you think that a similar strategy can be adopted in raising these fines, imposing a custodial sentence and so on, that too will go a long way in changing people's behavior?
I think the evidence is the speeding, the fines, and the enforcement of the speeding law, and the enforcement of the drinking and driving law. It just demonstrates to us that people listen when the fines are raised and when enforcement starts taking place. So yes, it will assist.
But your challenge is always going to be about detection.
Our challenge is going to be detection, and once again, we depend on good citizens to report.
Mm-hmm. Which also means that you've got to get the word out there through your public awareness campaigns to really encourage people to, seek out and secure the interests of these environmentally sensitive species.
And, based on the environmental literacy survey, based on the amount of letters to the editors, I think we have the majority of our population is concerned about our national bird, and they're concerned about our environment. And in our hotline, our complaints hotline, the amount of calls that we get in terms of people complaining about various pollution issues, in particular noise pollution. It means that people are understanding. So programs like these, we're here this morning to really raise public awareness and really try to do some education.
But what really concerns me, Mr. Romano, is that the minister referred to this as a poaching crisis, but it's going to take the EMA and the supporting agencies at least 12 months to really put these new regulations in place. What happens in the interim, though?
I think, let's be careful with the 12 months. We want to be conservative because we want to make sure we do it properly.
Right.
We know that we need to get all the details with respect to the species, because that's what the Act tells us. That's what the environmental species rules tells us. We have to get down that this is the reason why we're declaring this species. We have to ensure that the public gets the opportunity to participate, and it's meaningful participation. We have to take it back to the ministry and the cabinet to make sure that this is what they want. We want to make sure that there's the politically involved. The politicians have buy-in,
yes,
because at some point in time there is going to be a financial implication.
Yes, and they need to be your champions.
And they need to, and they are. Let's be clear. We have 2 champions already, so we feel quite safe in moving forward.
Good.
So yes, it may take as much as a year. That's the
conservative.
That's the long period. Yes. But we hope, Hayden, we hope that by January, February of next year,
yes,
this species will be declared an environmentally
Our target is the first quarter. Yes.
I don't want to nail it down to a date, but I'll take it on the advisement. That look is about 9 to 12 months.
In the first quarter of
first quarter 2018.
Yes.
First quarter 2018.
2018, the Scarlet Ibis will be declared
yes,
an environmentally sensitive species.
And
once we get the cooperation
yes,
of the public and the stakeholders.
And I am sure that the public and all of the other stakeholders will certainly support the EMA in this initiative.
Right.
And in the meantime, people,
could
you please stop eating the national bird?
and I think the forestry division has
yes,
increased the amount of game wardens.
Yeah. So we are trying to assist.
We are trying to assist with our environmental police. As small as our unit is, we're trying to assist. So yes, there are increased patrols.
Fantastic, and that's
Hayden,
great
if
news.
I may just also clarify, it's $100,000 and 2 years in prison.
And it's not all.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the custodial sentence is a guaranteed component of your conviction.
Yes.
Very good. Congratulations. So we can expect that the EMA will be able to put these new regulations in place. And folks, please be aware. Please exercise a little bit of patriotism. Protect the national bird and all of the other environmentally sensitive species in Trinidad and Tobago. They serve us well. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we have a lot more in store for you, so don't go anywhere. Thank you so much to the EMA, and stay with us.